Hello Year 2, how are you doing? So obviously yesterday we had a look at the text map for our advert for some clothes for a giant. Today we're going to do what we did with the diary and we're going to compare how an advert, a persuasive piece of writing, is the same or different to the story of the smartest giant in town. Let's have a look. So the key word that I want you to think about here is the word persuasive. If you're going to persuade somebody, you're going to try and change their mind. So let's have a look now at the story and the persuasive text and see what we can pick out, what features we can see. So here we have the story written in rhyming verse. So it's The Smartest Giant in Town by Julia Donaldson. George was a giant, the scruffiest giant in town. He always wore the same pair of old brown sandals and the same old patched up gown. "Oh, I wish I wasn't the scruffiest giant in town," he said sadly. But one day, George noticed a new shop. It was full of smart clothes, so he bought a smart shirt, a smart pair of trousers, a smart belt, a smart stripy tie, some smart socks with diamonds up the sides, and a pair of smart shiny shoes. "Now I'm the smartest giant in town," he said proudly. George left his old clothes behind in the shop. He was about to go home when he heard a sound. On the pavement stood a giraffe who was sniffing sadly. "But what's the matter?" asked George. "Oh, it's my neck," said the giraffe. "It's so very long and so very cold. I wish I had a long, warm scarf." "Cheer up," said George, and he took off his stripy tie. "It didn't match my socks anyway," he said, as he wound it round and round the giraffe's neck. It made a wonderful scarf. "Thank you," said the giraffe. As George strode towards home, he sang to himself. "My tie is a scarf for a cold giraffe, but look me up and down. I'm the smartest giant in town." That's just a very small part of the story. However, you know the rest of it. You've retold it with Mr. Cook. So I wonder what the features were. When you're writing a story, what do you have to do? I'd like you to just take a few minutes and pause the video and see if you can come up with some features of the story. Okay, how did you get on? I'm going to share with you some of the thoughts that I had. So I noticed that it's a story written in rhyming verse, so of course some of the words rhyme, just like in a squash and a squeeze. So town and gown, for example. I also noticed that the story follows a structure or a plot. I hope that by now, Year 2, you remember that with all of the work that we've been doing for Talk for Writing, there's always the introduction where you introduce the main characters, then the plot begins to thicken, something goes wrong, then there's a problem, an even bigger problem that goes wrong, there's a resolution, and then there's the ending. Each story goes through this process in a very similar way. So it may have different characters, it may have a different problem, it may have a different resolution. However, each story follows a simple structure. And when we've been retelling our stories, we've hugged that structure really tightly, haven't we? I also noticed, like I've said, that there was some conflict and resolution. So conflict, George was really sad. And then the resolution, he got himself new clothes. Conflict, the giraffe had a cold neck. The resolution, George gave him his scarf. There's also a setting. So this story is set in a town. It's the smartest giant in town. There are illustrations, there are lots of drawings which help add information to the story. There's a title and an author. And there are characters. We know that there's George, there's the shopkeepers, there's a giraffe, a fox, a goat, some mice. These aren't necessarily found in an advert. So here we have our advert. Giants are us. Brand new shop opening today. We are excited to announce the opening of England's first ever shop for giants. Are you tired of being the scruffiest giant in town? Do your friends laugh at your old patched up gown? Have your old brown sandals seen better days? Then you no longer have to be ashamed or embarrassed by your look. Throw those old scruffy clothes away and become the most fashionable, the most handsome, the most sophisticated, the smartest giant in town. We have everything you need to become a smarter than smart giant. Browse our huge collection of shirts, ties, socks and belts and trousers suitable for the most important giant in town. In need of some fancy new shoes? Then look no further. Our range will have you dancing down the street. Now, I hope you can see, even from the way that I read it, the difference between the persuasive text and the story. It's persuasive, it's powerful. But that's all the help I'm going to give you at the minute. Could you pause the video and see if you can think about how this is the same or different to the story? Pause the video now and come back when you're ready. How did you get on? Did you get some thoughts down? Here are some of mine. So I noticed that in this, there is some really emotive language. Now, that can seem like quite a complicated word, but basically it means that there are words that make you feel certain emotions. So at the beginning, it's saying, are you tired of being the scruffiest giant in town? Do your friends laugh at you? Are you ashamed, embarrassed? All of those words are used to make you, the scruffiest giant, feel sad, to feel worried, to feel embarrassed, you know, to think, oh my goodness, do I look scruffy? Oh, do I need new clothes? Are my friends laughing at me? And then you'll notice in the advert, the language then switches. We have everything you need to become smarter than smart, the most important giant, fancy new shoes will have you dancing down the street. Suddenly, instead of the language being really negative and conjuring up bad feelings inside you, the words make you think, oh, I could be really important just by a new shirt and tie. I could look really important. I could be dancing down the street. It turns from negative to positive. You also noticed that there isn't a plot in this, it's just a very simple message. It's getting to the point. You look scruffy, we have what you need. We're the first giant shop open in the whole country. We have the clothes that you need to be the smartest giant in town. It's a simple message, and they do lots of things to tell you that same message in a certain way. But the message is, come buy clothes from us and we will have you looking really smart. It holds the reader's attention. So stories get you to keep reading because, like I said, there's a plot. You want to find out how the problem is solved. You want to figure out what the ending is. Adverts don't have that. We just said it's a really simple message. So therefore, they use other things to help keep your attention. Things like questions. Are you tired of being the scruffiest giant in town? Questions that make you think, they grab your attention. And also the use of really powerful language, like we've already said. Then look no further. Our range will have you dancing down the street. Again, it makes you think. It makes you think you could be that giant that's dancing down the street, the envy of all of his friends. I also noticed that it gets them to think about things in a different way. Now, I've kind of already spoken about this in the emotive language. So at the beginning, it gets you to think that the way that you look isn't good enough. But by buying these clothes, you will look amazing. So it's getting you to change your point of view. Now, obviously, in The Smartest Giant in Town, George realizes that actually it doesn't matter what you look like, it's how you behave that is most important. This advert is trying to get you to think differently because they want you to buy their clothes. It's got bold claims, so really strong messages. Okay, it's the first ever shop open for giants. They will have you looking like the handsomest giant in town. They're really strong claims and they don't know if they're true, but it's a simple message. It grabs your attention and it gets you to think about things in a different way. Finally, it's got rhetorical questions. Now, I mentioned these a little bit with getting your attention, but a rhetorical question is a question where there isn't an answer. So, are you tired of being the scruffiest giant in town? The advert doesn't want you to talk back. It doesn't want to go, well, yes, actually, I am tired. The rhetorical question is getting you to think. Now, we've used some of these earlier on in the year and you did really well with them. So now we're going to take it a little step further because you'll use them every day. We use them every day in our language. Now you're going to use it to get the reader to think. So your activity today is the Venn diagram. Just like we did with the diary of a squash and a squeeze, we wanted to have a look at what was specific to a story. So it might be rhyming language. It might be illustrations, a plot, characters, a setting. You want to think what is specific about the persuasive text. So remember those rhetorical questions. Remember those really big, bold claims. You'll be the smartest giant. Remember, it's getting you to change your mind. They're trying to persuade you. It's getting you to think in a different way. And then in the middle, well, what's the same? They have words, they have grammar. They both had drawings in them. So what's the same about it? Good luck with this. I know you're going to do amazingly. And thinking about these differences ultimately is going to help you write an even better advert. Because if you can think about how an advert is different to a story, and if you can think about what makes an advert good, then you'll include it in your own and you'll come up with an absolutely awesome advert. So tomorrow we're going to be having a look at questions and particularly those tricky rhetorical questions. Now, these are quite challenging things that we're asking you to do, but myself and Mr. Cook have been so impressed by the work that we've seen back. We think you can do it. And I have to say, I absolutely loved writing the advert. I had so much fun, and that's what it's about. So while you're doing this, look at the advert of My Model Text and think, what is fun about it? How could you do that and play on words? Remember, you're making bold claims. So you don't need to go, oh yeah, here's a t-shirt. You can use your imagination. Here is the biggest, best, most fabulous t-shirt in the whole entire world. You can really get excited, have fun with it. So I'll see you again tomorrow, where we're going to have a look at using question marks. Bye.